She conquered music, she conquered Hollywood, and she became one of the most decorated entertainers in history. But what most people don't know is that Barbra Streisand, the woman whose voice defined generations, was haunted by a fear so crippling it kept her away from the very stage that made her a star. At 81, Streisand finally admitted the secret she carried for decades. Why did the woman who seemed fearless on screen and in song walk away from Broadway at the height of her fame? Barbra Streisand was born in Brooklyn in 1942, and from an early age, she was determined to escape the ordinary. In her teens, she pursued acting classes and began singing in nightclubs, where her powerful voice quickly drew attention. By 1962, at just 20 years old, she landed her first Broadway role in I Can Get It For You Wholesale. Her performance was so striking that it earned her instant recognition and her first Tony Award nomination. But it was 2 years later that she reached true stardom. Cast as Fanny Brice in Funny Girl in 1964, Streisand transformed into a Broadway phenomenon. Critics hailed her as a once-in-a-generation talent. Night after night, audiences rose to their feet, and her rendition of Don't Rain on My Parade became an anthem of ambition and defiance. Her success on stage quickly led to the 1968 film adaptation of Funny Girl, which earned her an Academy Award for Best Actress. In just 6 years, Streisand had gone from a Brooklyn teenager with big dreams to one of the most celebrated stars in the world. For many, Broadway seemed destined to remain her artistic home. But behind the applause and accolades, Streisand was already beginning to struggle with a hidden fear, one that would soon change the course of her career. In 1967, Barbra Streisand experienced a moment that would haunt her for decades. During a live concert in Central Park, she forgot the lyrics to a song in front of more than 100,000 people. For most performers, such a mistake might be brushed off. But for Streisand, whose reputation was built on perfection, the humiliation cut deep. That single moment planted the seeds of crippling stage fright. She began to dread live performances, fearing that she would forget her lines or lose control again. "I was terrified of making a fool of myself," Streisand admitted years later. The fear became so overwhelming that she stopped performing live altogether for more than 20 years, focusing instead on film and studio recordings where she could control every detail. This fear was one of the main reasons she never truly returned to Broadway, despite being its brightest star in the early 1960s. While her career flourished in movies like Hello, Dolly and in chart-topping albums, Broadway became a painful reminder of vulnerability, a stage she couldn't face again. What made it even more striking was the contrast between her public image and private reality. To the world, Streisand was unstoppable, glamorous, fearless, and impossibly talented. But privately, she battled anxiety so severe that it dictated her career choices. It was a secret she kept for decades, only acknowledging it openly much later in life. By the late 1960s, Barbra Streisand had the world at her feet. She had won a Tony nomination, headlined Funny Girl, and taken home an Oscar for the film version. But instead of doubling down on her Broadway stardom, she stepped away. The theater world expected her to dominate for decades, yet Streisand quietly redirected her focus to recording studios and Hollywood sets. The shift was partly creative. Broadway required her to perform the same role, night after night, with little variation. Streisand, who thrived on reinvention, craved new challenges and complete control. Film and music offered her both, but another factor weighed even heavier: her stage fright. The Central Park incident in 1967 had left an indelible mark, and Broadway, so demanding, so unforgiving, was no longer a place where she felt safe. In later interviews, she admitted that walking away from Broadway was bittersweet. "It shaped me," she reflected, "but I couldn't go back. I was too frightened." For Streisand, the decision was not a rejection of theater itself, but of the anxiety it triggered. Still, the irony was striking. Broadway had made her a star, yet she felt unable to face it again. That tension between gratitude and fear became one of the defining contradictions of her career. As Streisand turned her back on Broadway, her fame only grew. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, she became one of the world's most successful recording artists, with hits like Evergreen and Woman in Love. On the big screen, she delivered acclaimed performances in The Way We Were and A Star Is Born. She even directed films, proving her creative control extended far beyond performance. But the Broadway absence never went unnoticed. Critics often pointed out that despite her incredible voice and theatrical instincts, Streisand hadn't returned to the stage that first crowned her a star. For years, rumors swirled. Was it arrogance, a desire for money, or simply a rejection of her roots? Only later would Streisand reveal the truth. It was fear. Meanwhile, she found other ways to keep Broadway close. In 1985, she released the Broadway album, a collection of show tunes that reintroduced her fans to the music that had shaped her early career. The record was a massive success, reaching #1 on the charts and winning her a Grammy. It was her way of honoring Broadway, without having to step back onto its stage. Yet the question lingered, could the woman who defined Funny Girl ever return to live theater? Or had her fear created a permanent wall between her and the Broadway spotlight? Streisand's distance from Broadway had profound consequences, both for her image and for the theater world that had once embraced her. On one hand, she became an unmatched force in popular culture. By the 1980s, she had Grammy, Oscar, and Emmy awards under her belt, a true global icon. But Broadway insiders often viewed her absence as a loss. She was the star who had seemed destined to redefine the stage for a generation, yet she never returned. The public, too, noticed. Fans who had first fallen in love with her live performances longed to see her back on stage. Critics sometimes interpreted her absence as aloofness, even arrogance, as if she considered herself too big for Broadway. Yet those closest to her knew the truth was far more complicated. Her crippling fear of forgetting lyrics, combined with the demands of nightly stage work, made the idea unbearable. When the Broadway album topped the charts in 1985, it was both celebrated and bittersweet. Here was Streisand proving once again her unmatched connection to theater music, yet only through the safety of a recording studio. It was like a love letter to Broadway, one critic observed, but from a safe distance. For decades, her absence became part of her myth. Streisand had conquered every corner of entertainment, except the one where it all began. By her 80s, Streisand had nothing left to prove. Her 2023 memoir, My Name is Barbra, finally broke her silence on why she left Broadway behind. In candid passages, she admitted that stage fright had ruled her decisions. "I was terrified of forgetting the words," she confessed, "and once that fear took hold, I couldn't shake it." She also revealed her deep regret, that she never reclaimed the Broadway stage that had made her a star. At 81, she acknowledged that the fear had cost her something irreplaceable, but she also made peace with it, recognizing that her path led to other extraordinary achievements. Her career as a recording artist, filmmaker, and global activist might never have flourished if she had stayed tethered to Broadway. Thanks for watching. Click here to check another video and make sure to subscribe to our channel.